postseason and throughout the majority of the regular season. He was dead set on using the same lineup: Josh Hart, Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, and Karl Anthony Towns. That has been his tried and true lineup that he goes to more than any other in the NBA. Switching out Josh Hart, so you switch out a big guard for a big man in Mitchell Robinson, may have been the catalyst for what happened in Game 3. But it's Karl Anthony Towns in the fourth quarter after another disappearing act in the first three quarters where he was awful, ends up finishing 20 points, 8 boards, and an assist in the fourth quarter. And you just mentioned it. This is a $220 million max player. Let's not act like he's, doing something that is unfathomable, or he's the underdog, a 16-1 Cinderella upset.
Yeah.
This is somebody who's paid to do this, somebody who has shown you for 10 years he's going to disappear in moments in the postseason. He's going to have the flash, and then all of a sudden you're not going to see him for 3 games. This is exactly who Karl Anthony Towns is, and this should not be looked at as some sort of, miraculous achievement that he had last night. You're paid to be that guy to come through in the clutch, and in the fourth quarter, for Thibodeau to be able to rely on Cat to get this team over the hump, even playing with 4 fouls, that should be expected.
Yeah, I mean, Karl Anthony Towns ain't Jimmer Fredette. He's supposed to perform like this. And let's be honest, Courtney, it was embarrassing that they couldn't use him. Tibbs couldn't use him in Game 2. Mm-hmm. Couldn't bring him off the bench in the fourth quarter because he was a defensive liability, wasn't lighting it up on offense either. So you can't be in that position as a $220 million max guy. You have to be able to contribute. And if your defense isn't there, then you got to do the things you did last night. And Karl Anthony Towns did that. But to your point, will we see it again? I don't think this can be every other game for Karl Anthony Towns. He was brought to New York to be that guy consistently, and that could be the difference between New York advancing to the finals and having a chance against Minnesota or OKC, or losing this series and going back home and having to regroup this offseason.
Yeah, 20 points for Karl Anthony Towns, all of which were scored in the fourth quarter on Sunday night. Let's hear from the head coach of the New York Knicks, Tom Thibodeau. Was there an added emphasis to get Cat the ball in the final period?
Tom, obviously Towns, 20 in the fourth. Just was there a concerted effort to seek him and hunt him, especially with the lineups that you had?
Yeah, well, I think that's sort of the mantra of the team. They're unselfish guys. When someone gets going, you try to continue to keep them going, and that's recognizing what's working. And so is everyone working together to find open shots for them, which I think is important.
That was Tom Thibodeau and Karl Anthony Towns. Let's hear from Cat now himself about what exactly got him going in the fourth quarter that wasn't working earlier in the game.
Teammates put me in great spots to succeed, and I just wanted to capitalize on the opportunity. And all of us were just doing whatever it takes to win and put ourselves in a position to get back in the game, 1, and 2, put ourselves in a position where, at the end of the game, we could find ourselves with a chance to win. So it's a shout out to the locker room, all of us finding a way.
Yeah, so a very obvious emphasis there. Go to Karl Anthony Towns in the fourth quarter. What do you think they saw? Because it was, what I saw in the first 3 quarters was somebody who drew 4 fouls very early in the game, was a liability, again, defensively, the way that you mentioned, Myron, he was in Game 2. And it just felt like any time the Pacers were able to key in on Karl Anthony Towns, he kind of crumbled. And we saw that earlier in this series. We saw it in the Boston Celtics series outside of a couple games. What changed for Cat in Game 3?
I think they showed him his check stubs, and they said, hey, man, we didn't bring you over here to do this. We brought you over here to help us win. So, I mean, what you saw in the fourth quarter was how dominant Karl Anthony Towns can be. I mean, he's a high-level player. What I don't like about the Karl Anthony Towns situation is when people act like he's not in the conversation as one of the better big men in this league. No, he's not Jokic or healthy Embiid or Giannis or maybe even Anthony Davis, but he's right below that group. And I think you saw that last night when he took over in the fourth quarter. But to your point, Courtney, this can't be a, hey, Karl, we need you now. Would you show up, please? We're trying to win. This has to be just something he is. And I think that, to me, is going to be the difference going forward. Can you do this in Game 4, in Game 5, and help New York get to the finals? Or are you going to disappear again? Because that's what we've seen too often in these moments from him.
He's Myron Medcalf. I'm Courtney Cronin. We have a series, finally, in the Eastern Conference Finals. It's 2-1. The Indiana Pacers have Game 4 tomorrow. But On the other side of this is a Pacers team that was up by 20. And then at the end of the first half, when the Knicks cut it to 13, there was something, it felt like a shift in real time where their offense in Indiana started to crumble, where things weren't going through Tyrese Halliburton as easily as they might have been. Obviously, the Aaron Nesmith injury with his ankle, it looked like he tweaked it pretty good, and obviously he was able to come back. But something just stopped working for them in the second half, to where when Cat gets hot, there's almost like a direct correlation of what was happening with the Pacers. Like, they had 20 points, 7 boards, and an assist as a team in the fourth quarter. And to me, that was almost inexcusable. Like, you gave this game away. If I'm Indiana right now, I'm Rick Carlisle, I'm looking at this saying we had a prime opportunity to go up 3-0. And it's that conversation we always have. Did the Knicks win this game, or did the Pacers blow it? I'm kind of leaning more towards the Pacers had a prime opportunity in their grasp and blew it down the stretch. There was no way, given the way that they started the game, given the energy in that place that was fueled off of their first half offense and building a 20-point lead, that they should be sitting here on Monday morning dissecting what went wrong as a product of their own offensive ineptitude and just disappearing act that they played in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, you go up 20, you got to win that, right? It's weird. Courtney, it's two teams that really like adversity. I mean, Indiana, we saw what they did in game 1. Game 2, they're going back and forth in Madison Square Garden, and they get that win. And then they're up 20. It's like these are two teams that don't know what to do with that big lead. They're more comfortable in kind of that back and forth kind of a matchup, and they got punched back. I think that's what happened to the Pacers. I don't think they anticipated that Karl-Anthony Towns would show up like that in the fourth quarter. I also think they've gotten a little arrogant, right? Like, this is a team that found a way to win in more difficult situations in game 1 and game 2. So now you're coasting in game 3. They brought the Indy 500 winner over just to wave to the crowd. Like, they put him through traffic in Indianapolis and got him there because they just expected this to be one giant celebration. And I think they found out, like, no, that's not the way the NBA works. You're going to have to play all 4 quarters to get that win. But I'm with you. Watching that film, you're going, we had a chance to go up 3-0 and you missed it. And ultimately, this game could be the game that gets the Knicks back in the series and leads them to advancing.
It's interesting because what were the Pacers so good at? What have they been so good at? Whether it was dismantling the Cavs, maybe didn't see as much with Milwaukee. I thought Milwaukee handled their pace pretty well, but against Cleveland, and even in the first 2 games in this series, like how well they have played in transition, you saw that for the first 3 quarters of this game. They outscored them 20-6 in transition, but that they didn't have a single play in transition in the fourth quarter. They forgot who they were. Like for 3 quarters or 2.5 until they started coming back at the end of the third quarter, the Pacers were riding high. They thought they were going to go up 3-0. They thought that they were going to, be coasting to the NBA Finals, where they'll face either the Minnesota Timberwolves or the Oklahoma City Thunder. And then all of a sudden, like, this seems kind of like one of those like inexperience versus experience arguments that you have. Obviously, they were there last year in the Eastern Conference Finals. The Knicks weren't, but it felt like they were playing like the team that's inexperienced here and not realizing that you can't default to falling back to what's comfortable in that fourth quarter. And that's what happened when they were not making a single play in transition. They weren't the outpacing team, outpacing their competition the way that they had earlier in this series in games 1 and 2. And I mean, you can look at Tyrese Halliburton and say, where were you? But what about, Benedict Matherin's been awful this series. Like, the supporting cast around this team, I think the starting 5 they had last night shot 41%. That's the worst that they've had all postseason long. And if you leave the door open for a Tibbs team that has shown you that they can adjust and he can make a lineup change that might very well have saved the series, but also saved his job, you run into a spot where there's very little margin for error going into game 4. And obviously, they have a 2-1 lead in the series right now, but it is a series nonetheless after the New York Knicks get back in this thing with a 106-100 victory on Sunday night. We have so much more to get into from this game, whether Tibbs saved